Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Fraud Watch Friday. We are glad to be here with you on this cloudy Friday. And with me, as always, is Kay Tomlinson, one of our experts from the Fraud Watch Network. Hi, Kay. How is things going with you today?
Hi, going well, going well. Been talking with a lot of folks this week about fraud and cyber crimes. And I'm especially excited to share this information today because I think it's something that folks can take with them and that then you can use on an ongoing basis.
All right. Well, I should also mention that Kay is our lead fraud volunteer. So she's a real expert on all things fraud and does a lot of speaking in the community. We have a speakers bureau. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end of the program. But Kay is going to talk about something that I had vaguely heard about but had never looked into. And
Oh,
it's a
Bruce.
and it's a resource from AARP on how you can stay up to date on the scams that are happening near you. So, Kay, can you walk us through this tool and what you've learned about it?
Absolutely. This is a really helpful resource. I'm going to share my screen here so we can all see. But what I want to do today is take you to the Fraud Watch Network webpage at aarp.org. So the web address is aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. Not Fraud Watch Friday, Fraud Watch Network. And there's so many wonderful resources and tools on this page. I want to take a look at the tools to show them to you. And then I especially want to walk through and take a look at a few things that I think are going to surprise you on the Fraud Watch Scam Map. This is where you can take a look and learn about frauds happening right in your neighborhood, right in your zip code. And I have to warn you, you can spend hours looking at the information on the scam map. It's horrifying, but it is just fascinating, and it's a wonderful learning tool. We're going to look at some things that people have posted. What are the red flags? What are the learnings from those posts that we can gain from that? So we're going to dive in. You should be seeing Fraud Watch Network. That's the beginning of the page. And of course, the first thing that comes up is the free resource helpline if you suspect a scam. We've talked about the Fraud Watch helpline that you can call to get help, I think probably on every Fraud Watch Friday. Here's the number, 877-908-3360. And the thing to know, you don't have to be victimized by a fraud to call the helpline. If you think you've been approached, if you're not sure, call the number. You're going to talk to an actual person, and they're going to listen to what's happening, give you some information, and if there's really more that you need after talking with them, they're going to take your name and your phone number. It's not going to be shared with anybody except a Fraud Watch volunteer professional in your area. They're going to call you, and you can talk to them at length and get even more information and support. So again, Fraud Watch Network, first thing that comes up, we're going to scroll down, should be seeing that. And then there's tools to keep you a step ahead. We're going to take a look at a couple of these. You can read the latest news. What's some of the latest fraud news that's happening across the country? You're going to see those stories. I just clicked on that link, and hey, there's the helpline phone number again. It's everywhere. So scroll down, and what I really like on this page, it says Ask AARP about scams and fraud. You can call the helpline and ask, or give this a try. This is pretty fun to try. You can ask questions, and your questions are answered by artificial intelligence that's powered only by AARP content. Think of this as like an in-house AI. So let's ask it something. I always like to know about cryptocurrency. So we're going to say, and please pardon my typing in advance, okay? I'm just saying, why do scammers ask for cryptocurrency? And then you can click the arrow or press enter. Thinking about the answer, looking up details. Here's my question up here. Oh, wow. Okay, so that was AI working with AARP in-house to answer our questions. Scammers request cryptocurrency because the transactions are completed instantly. Falls outside consumer protections. You can copy this answer and take it to someplace else if you want to share it with someone. So you can ask anything that you want to. I want us to ask another question, just start a new chat. So you get the idea. You can come to Ask AARP, ask it anything. And there's even some little common questions you can click on. So that's really a nice tool if you're just kind of curious about something that you've heard, you're not really sure, is that even a scam? So let's go back to the Fraud Watch Network homepage. You can sign up for an email that you would get every 2 weeks that's going to give you a newsletter type fraud information. Very handy, very helpful, very succinct, not overwhelming with an email every day. Of course, here's our scam map. Search scams near you. We're going to come back to this because we're going to spend a bit of time here. But I also want you to realize that the perfect scam is available right here. It's a podcast that you can listen to on several fraud topics and hear victims of scams being interviewed, sharing their story, sharing what they've learned through the experience. It's very, very, it's heartbreaking on one hand, but it's inspirational on the other. So it's well worth the time to listen to The Perfect Scam. If you scroll down, we're still on the same page. Scroll down a little bit more. Again, hey, it's the helpline again. I said it was everywhere. It's basically everywhere. But what I want to talk about here is that you might not be aware that AARP has support groups available. You connect with other people that have been victimized by scams. They're confidential online groups led by trained facilitators, confidential. You sign up for it and register. You're not alone. The discussions are very helpful because experiencing fraud as a victim is devastating and it's traumatizing. Talking through it with a professional, trained facilitator and others who have gone through the same thing, very helpful. Okay, and then how to talk to fraud victims. We have a tendency to blame the victim in fraud. This is going to give you some alternate comments that you can make. It's not your fault you've been victimized by a crime. Rather than, how could you be so foolish to fall for that? You get the idea. Good information here. So we're going to go back up to the top of our page. We're still on the same page, aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. But we want to look at the scam map, right? We want to see what's there because that's really the main point of our session. So we've scrolled down. We're going to search scams near you. Okay, scam tracking map. Over here on the side, you can see report a scam. Report a scam to help protect your neighbors. Or, hey, here's the helpline again. But to report a scam, I want you to know this is not reporting your scam to the FTC or the FBI or local law enforcement. This is only to list your scam or potential scam on the scam tracking map. So others in your zip code, others in your area can see it and be warned. Again, this does not report to law enforcement. So scam tracking map shows scams reported in your area to warn your neighbors. Let's scroll down. Okay. So I'm on a little rollerball mouse, so it's kind of hinky. And I'm going to move this over here so I can see more. Hopefully, there we go. Okay, so let's go to, let's just delete San Francisco. Okay, there's the whole country. Okay, there is some scams happening and being reported in our country. All of these circles represent a region. Sometimes each region has multiple zip codes. The numbers inside each circle indicate the number of frauds reported for that region. Okay, outside of Dallas, 33. Yikes, 38. 22 in Washington. Okay, 80 in Florida, 16 down by Miami. You get the idea. And then over here, we can see individual reports. Here's the date, only a few days ago. No money lost. Contact was a phone call. Here's the zip code. Let's take a look. Just click on it. And you can see scam type, identity theft. Amount lost, they didn't lose any money. Great. When did it occur? Just a few days ago. They were contacted by phone. This is their zip code. You can see there's no names, there's no phone numbers, there's no identifier of you. You're just reporting what happened to you so other people in your area can see and be aware. In this case, scam number pretending to be MasterCard, Visa, credit card services on the phone call. They had this person's name and the last four of their social security number. And they rattled off several cards that this person didn't have. They also said they work for credit card services. This person hung up, but the scammer called back 8 times. Came up as a scam on their phone. They blocked the numbers. This person called their banks and their credit cards to verify no such phone number was attached to them. So this person has said this happened. I didn't fall for it. I hung up. I didn't lose any money. So red flags. Somebody pretending to be MasterCard services that has your number and wants to talk to you about them. Your credit card company is not going to do that. They called back several times. They did the right thing here. They blocked the number. They called the banks and the credit card numbers to advise them. And they realized, yep, that wasn't even a correct number. So this is the kind of information that you see when you click on the individual scams over here. And so let's take a look at a specific area. We're in the Seattle area here at Fraud Watch Friday. So Seattle, Washington, and then double click. What happens? Okay, well, okay, and Seattle has its share of scam. Here's Seattle right here in this middle where it says 10. Yikes. Okay, well, let's see what we can find out. Here's tech support scams, 427, just less than a month ago. Let's look at that one. Okay, so I'm not going to read this whole thing. This is pretty long, but you can see the amount lost, more than $5,000. Their email was taken over. Call this number to get help. And they thought about it. They paused and thought about it, but they said probably to themselves, we better call. They called that number and were told that a scan would be run on their device to find out what the malware is. Well, money's been withdrawn from your account at Bank of America. It's going to a porno site in China. There's a 24-hour hold. We can get your money if you move it to a Wells Fargo bank account. Here's the account number. Oh, but wait, we think that some of the Wells Fargo people are bad actors. We think that they are not safe to have your money. So you need to be quiet about this. This should be secret. You shouldn't tell anybody. Cooperate with us. We set up an account with the Federal Trade Commission. Send the money there and then withdraw it later. So this had been going on a ways. But these people contacted Bank of America Fraud Division, and since they willingly provided and moved their money, they have to wait 90 days for this whole thing to be analyzed to see if the money can be released. And that's only if Wells Fargo agrees with them and recognizes that this is fraud. So red flags. Email was taken over. Tech support scam. Probably their screen froze and they couldn't do anything. Call this number to help. Move your money right away. Another red flag, secrecy. Don't tell anybody, just cooperate with us and transfer your money where we tell you to send it. So what would be the learnings if we were to read this and say, what would I have done? Well, let's see. If your screen freezes and it says you might be infected or your accounts might be in danger, do a hard shutdown of your device. That means go to the power button on your device, press it, and turn it off. Wait 20 seconds or so, turn it back on. I would bet you several $100s right now, your computer's going to be just fine. Your phone's going to be just fine. You blocked that. You can then run a virus scan using your virus software, which is not a bad idea. But again, even if you get something like this and there's a number to call, another thing to be aware of, never call the number that's listed on an email or a text saying, call this number for help, to move money, to get more information. Don't call that number. Go to another number that from a source that you trust, like your bank's number on the back of your bank card, and call them. You know, I've gotten this message, and they're going to say it's a scam. So again, this is the kind of information that people post. Let's look at a couple others. Because you can see sometimes there's large dollar amounts lost. Sometimes we're looking at no money lost, but they're sharing them information. Account on Instagram, direct message them asking for nudes and send money because they're going to blackmail them. Pretty common scam. We've talked about that on Fraud Watch Friday. Let's look at another area because I know we have people that join us from Denver a lot. So let's look at what am I typing? Denver, Colorado. Okay, and then double click. Denver, Colorado. Double click. There we go. Okay, well, you know, Denver's right up there with Seattle. And as you look at these, okay, this first one was just last month. Famous person, David, contacted my aunt and started a friendship. This is very long. I would encourage you to go to the Denver page and read this. It's very complex. The poor woman lost quite a bit of money, but she did end up with some gold. So that's a little intrigue to give you an incentive to go to the scam map and search Denver. But gift card scams and fraud, also just last month. Let's look. Scam type, gift card scams and fraud. Amount lost, $1 to $100. Someone got my number and personal information and began threatening me. Okay, I would have loved to have seen more information on this, you know, but that's just frightening. And scammers will do that. They will threaten. They'll threaten arrest. They'll threaten that law enforcement is on the way to your home to arrest you right now. Don't believe it. Hang up. Date occurred just last month. Social media. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you read it and you'd think, I would love to have more information, but that poor person. IRS government scam. IRS mail notice asked to provide bank account number for a tax refund. By mail, government imposter scams. It's not always text. It's not always email or phone call, snail mail. And we're going to actually talk about IRS letters in just a few moments, because that's something that's been happening a lot here in Washington State. I want to look at one more location if we could, because I want you to really understand that you can look anywhere. So let's look at San Francisco, double click, even though I can't type. Okay. Oh, San Francisco doesn't look quite as bad as Seattle. What's up with that? Okay. Cryptocurrency scams and fraud. Ha. This goes back to our question for AI. Cryptocurrency scam, 5,000 and more lost. Contacted by someone working for a wealth management company out of Chicago, Harris Associates. Turns out it was all fake and they stole their money. Here's the name of the person they were working with. Contact method, online, San Francisco. So we've talked a lot about investment scams and cryptocurrency on Fraud Watch Friday. To be aware of somebody contacting you saying they have a wonderful investment opportunity. Here's how you can take advantage, and they'll walk you through being able to invest in cryptocurrency. Something else I want to show you before we finish up with the scam map is as you scroll down, you can see that for San Francisco, you can go through 29 pages of fraud. And you can click on any one of these numbers. We were on 2. These are going to change. We can switch to 1. So here we go. Investment scam fraud, just what we were talking about. They didn't lose any money, though. They want me to do a rollover of an IRA into an account that they helped set up. Uses a fake company, Good Harbor Investments. Stole the address from a real company, Good Harbor Advisors. This was an email contact. So again, they didn't lose any money, but you're contacted by a group where you did not initiate the contact. You didn't start the conversation. And so they want to now help you manage your money with an investment. And with a name that looks close enough with the same address as a legitimate company. And that's the red flag. You're contacted by somebody that wants to give you a fantastic opportunity to make money. You didn't initiate that contact. So you get the idea on the scam map. Go in there. You don't have to put a city. You can put Bonnie Lake. You can go in and put a zip code where you live and then find out the surrounding areas. Read through elder scams and fraud, elder scams and fraud. So again, I encourage you to go to the scam map. It is pretty comprehensive. People are very generous in what they share. And I think it's a good thing to look at because it makes you realize these frauds are actually happening. That sounds kind of funny to say, but sometimes when we talk about fraud, whether it's here on Fraud Watch Friday, or I go out and I speak to folks at organizations about scams and fraud, It's hard to internalize that. It's hard to believe those people really do that. And you know what? Unfortunately, those people really do that. And so this is really a way to understand the kind of things that are actually happening in real life that we are talking about on a regular basis, plus helps you be aware of what to watch for, reinforces what you've been learning to where if this happens to you, well, you know how to where to find the helpline number, that's for sure. But you can also be aware of what to do next and recognize that it's a scam. So you know, we've talked about red flags, don't respond to calls, text, emails you didn't initiate. Don't call the phone numbers provided. Organizations and companies aren't going to call you to ask for money or verify information. And we saw several categories of elder fraud. Really keep track and be aware of what your loved ones are going through and what they're dealing with because they're prime victim opportunities for fraud. So Bruce, that's kind of the look at what we have available here at aarp.org/FraudWatchFriday. And I'm going to stop my share. And so I just really thought that it was an opportunity today to let people know what's out there because you can look at this information literally anytime it's available. And you're muted. There you go.
There,
Hello.
there we go. We got to unmute each other.
I know.
That was very interesting. I was not aware of everything that was available there, and it's pretty interesting to see the different frauds that are happening in different areas. Because that's one of the things that we try to do on Fraud Watch Friday is update people on what's new and what's going on.
Mhm.
But this is a way between our Fraud Watch Fridays to
There
see
you
what's
go.
going on. And Art was following along, and Art is in Hansville, and he says, "I'm looking at the site along with you, and our maps are different. I wonder why we're on the same site. Do you know? I've got an idea."
Okay, what's your idea? Because
Well,
I don't know.
and actually, Art follows up with his map did update, so it was the
Oh,
same.
oh, I see.
But I would also say that ARP is in a process now of improving our web experience,
Mm-hmm.
and there's an increasing emphasis on personalization. So it could be that if you're in a different city, that you might get a different map.
Oh,
Um, and also, like ARP's website thinks I'm in Kirkland, which I am not, but I think it has to do with where I get my internet provided from. Um, so sometimes if you get personalized information for like a place that you're not in, I think the answer is to go ahead and enter your zip code or
yeah.
your town and not rely on just the automatic personalization. But I would say this has been a little bit of a process. People are having a harder time finding our events and our current content than they had been with the old system. But that's just kind of growing pains, and it's being worked on. I can tell you that, and it's gotten a lot. It's got a lot better. We've switched our web services providers, so um,
Ah,
that I think could be the reason. But um, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more. We've talked about the importance of reporting to law enforcement, and actually, when we did our event in Spokane, we talked a lot about that to the law enforcement people that we had. But it's also important to build a community to fight fraud because law enforcement can't be everywhere. They can't investigate every crime. Crime moves so quickly that law enforcement cannot keep up. So, could you talk a little bit about the importance of all of us contributing to this map and what the benefits might be.
Absolutely. And, as I said, the report here button on that web page doesn't report your event to law enforcement or the FBI, but it's extremely important to do that first. Contact law enforcement, file a report, go online to ic3.gov, which is the FBI. Very easy to file that. Contact local law enforcement. If the person you talk to doesn't want to take a report, ask for a supervisor to file a report. If you've lost money, and you want to go to your bank, most likely the first thing they're going to say is, do you have a police report? And so you want to file that report. It's going to give your bank what they need, but importantly, it's going to give law enforcement information that they have, that they can look at all of the other reports that they've been getting. Bruce is right. They get a lot of reports, but they can combine that. They can compile. They can see how they cross-track to investigate. And especially if it is involving something like cryptocurrency. We'll talk about that more in a moment. But once you file your law enforcement reports, going on to the scam map here at AARP is, it might seem like it's not that important, but when you think about people in your neighborhood, people in your area, if you've had trouble, if someone's knocking on your door saying, hey, I've got leftover roofing materials and your roof looks kind of bad, we could go ahead and fix that for you for a discount. Of course, they're not real roofers. They're just looking for you to prepay and then they never show up and come back. But you would want your neighbors to know that you'd have been approached and someone's knocking on doors, right? Going up and down your street. You'd want to tell them that. This is the same thing. You're telling people in your area, in your region, that you've been approached or victimized by these scams so that they can get the same learnings, be exposed to the same red flags that you are when you read these stories, this information, these postings. So, and the other thing that you can do that we would really encourage is not just talking to law enforcement, but keep in mind talking with your elected officials, city council members, state representatives and legislators about fraud. What are you doing to protect us? And again, that goes back to this cryptocurrency kiosks, the ATM machines. The purpose that they serve is money laundering and moving money and fraud, and they're not regulated in our state. Several cities and city councils have banned them. Several other city councils in Washington state are talking about initiating bans. Those are the kind of other steps that you can take to contact your local officials and say, these ATMs are used for fraud. You need to protect us. Bruce mentioned the event in Spokane. The detective Tim Shearing, was that his last name, Bruce?
Yeah,
I should know.
swearing, I believe.
I just left him a message because we want him to join us for an upcoming Fraud Watch Friday. He's one of two detectives in Washington state that have been trained in cryptocurrency investigations. Do you think he's overwhelmed with work? He still needs your information if you are approached or victimized in a cryptocurrency fraud. And then he'll probably tell you, hey, contact your city council members and state legislators because we need help.
Yeah, it just occurred to me that a good example of kind of crowd info was the good to go toll scam that was going on a few months ago. I guess it was a little while ago, but there was just an epidemic of text messages
Yeah.
saying that you haven't paid your toll bill. And here in Washington, we have a system called Good to Go, where if you drive over a toll road, it takes a picture of your license plate and they send you a bill. And so everyone was getting these, and I had my daughter send me a screenshot saying, "Is this real?" Because they say they're going to come and take your car if you don't pay your toll bill right away. And people
Right.
were, it was kind of new, and people were going, "Oh my gosh." And then, the Department of Transportation came out with messaging, and we realized that everybody was getting these, and they were very well written. They were very scary. And that's just, but once you found out that everybody was getting these, and no, you didn't know a tow bill, and if you did, nobody was going to come and tow your car. It provided a lot of peace of mind, but it also shut down that scam. I don't see that anymore. So, that's kind of the power outside of law enforcement that education can provide. Um, Denise has a question, and I think this is a good one.
Yeah.
I get a scam email every day. Lots of them say I ordered something, and if I don't recognize the purchase, call this number that they give you for help. Should I be reporting all of these?
You could be doing lots of reporting, right, Denise? That's kind of the nice edge of, do I report everything? But you don't want to report nothing. It's if I'm hoping that you have a spam blocker on your phone, or your email. Check your email service. You might be able to do something to increase your spam capabilities on your email server, by changing some settings. They can probably help you with that. But should you report that? You might want to report, I would report it to your email server and say, I'm getting all of these. How can I stop it? At the same time, you could certainly do, and fill out the form at ic3.gov and saying, I'm getting multiple scam emails every day, or I get them every day. Here's the email where it's coming from. So you're telling them that, and that this is ongoing. I'm working with my email server to make it stop, but I'm just getting dozens and dozens. That way you're kind of reporting the issue. You don't have to go in and report, got another. Nope, here's another. You can just say, I'm getting, what are the numbers that you're getting? Where are they coming from? Is it from different email servers, or from just one thing, one over and over and over again? So that would be my thoughts on how to address that. Is that going to stop it? Maybe if your email service can do something. There are some email services that are extreme in protection and privacy, to where you have to be much more involved in dealing with your email rather than just seeing, did somebody send me an email? That's an option if there's nothing your current service can do.
Yeah, and Dan comments, and hi, Dan. Passing the word to friends, neighbors, relatives, and coworkers about scams, gift cards, crypto ATMs is also very helpful. Yeah, that's kind of an expansion on what we do here, but there's
Mhm.
no substitute for word of mouth from like people that you trust, or you having this information, speaking to people in your life who trust you.
Mhm.
Very important.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, actually, DM says that Gmail settings can set up filters on patterns to forward to trash or scam. Um, that is true. I'm not an expert on email settings. Do you have any quick tips? Okay, or if not, perhaps that could be a future
Mhm.
Fraud Watch Friday topic.
Well, and like I said, check with your email service and see what they can do. Depending on the service, might be tied to Google. Something else that you can do is, for in terms of Google settings. I see Richard has said, any thoughts about services that claim to remove information from the dark web? I get emails from companies that say, your information's been found on the dark web. According to all of these emails, all of my information is everywhere, which, it probably is. But at the same time, there are some opportunities to check that and have that removed. Companies that are services that say they're going to do that, I would look into that and research quite extensively. Maybe go to PC Mag online, wired.com, and just say services to remove information from the dark web. See what comes up, see what companies, enter the name of the company followed by the word scam, and then do reviews online. You can also just go to Google, and they have a service. And I think I pay, what do I pay? $3 a month, $2 a month, something like that. And they actually monitor information on the web, on the internet and the dark web. And then I'll get an email from Google that says this information was accessed or found by, and then I can go and look at it, and I can have that information removed. Also, just do a search on remove my information from the internet. There's lots of opportunities and ways to go about it. The thing to remember is the scammers know that too. So services like this, there are some legitimate. There are other scammers that are just looking to find out what information should we be looking for so we can remove it from the web for you. Now they got your information. So doing your research is the main thing. And like I said, in terms of emails, there are some email services that are extremely private. A couple of cyber people that I know have these, and I elected not to go with them because I really didn't have the time, I felt, to kind of jump through the hoops to set it up. But they are valuable if you really want to cut down on that stuff. I don't know if that's a good answer, Bruce.
Yeah, I think the thing about the dark web is that it's so dark that it's hard to be sure of anything. I'm putting a link here to an interview that we did with a former con artist who's now a cybersecurity expert, and he claimed to be the godfather of dark web crime, and he was the founder of some of the dark web marketplaces that were in the news quite a few years ago now. But he gave us a tour of the dark web, and there's also a video about that on our site, and it's pretty amazing, and it's pretty scary too.
Yeah.
But it also sort of led me to believe that you can't clean up the dark web for yourself. There's so many shady characters with sophisticated tools who are very smart, working 24/7 there. Kind of like we said, you have to assume that your personal information has probably been compromised and sold on the dark web. So paying a company who says they can protect you is not something that we recommend. I mean, maybe it helps, but you really have to kind of take as many steps as you can to protect yourself. And I'm proud to report I finally finished freezing my credit on all three credit
Yay!
bureau, which was not that hard in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So just doing stuff like that, and a lot of criminals for the big cons are looking for somebody who hasn't protected themselves at all and will do what they say. And so if you've protected yourself with some basic steps like freezing your credit, like being skeptical, as you learn here, like not clicking on their links, not calling the phone numbers that they give you, you've gone a long way to help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are looking for the easy score. Most of the time, they don't want to work too hard. So, so that's kind of the best defense, I think, than paying somebody else to protect you, because
Mm-hmm.
that's never going to be 100%.
Right.
But Art says that Google has been helpful in notifying
Mm-hmm.
him. So
Mm-hmm.
everything you can do adds up.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one magic thing. Did you have any thoughts on that, Kay?
Well, yeah, and I think that's true. The more steps that you can take, freezing your credit is probably number one. Um, monitoring what information is out there on Google, just go into your search engine, whichever one you like to use, and just do a search on your name and address and see where it's at. The call blockers for spam, updating your devices with the current security updates, using a virtual private network to mask your activity on the web, and just being aware of the things that are out there. Scam Map helps show that. Things like Fraud Watch Friday show that. And then talking to your friends and neighbors to make sure you share that information in your family to where, they're taking those same steps. I do want to, as we're kind of getting close to our end, Bruce, I do want to talk about these IRS letters that are coming out in Washington State because I know you forwarded me several examples of that, and it's something that's been starting to come up now. And I have a feeling that given the staffing cuts at the IRS back in DC, we're going to see more of these letters come over time. I've had 3 different people ask me, why am I not getting my refund yet? This is taking so long. And, these letters look like scams. And I think that's part of the issue is that you get a letter that looks like it's from the IRS and it seems suspicious. And people are saying, I think this is a scam. I'm not sure. But what these letters are saying is that we tried to refund your information, but it was blocked or disputed, wasn't accepted by your bank. Please send us the correct banking information. Well, after listening to one Fraud Watch Friday, you'd be tearing that letter up and putting it in the shred pile, right? But really, another one of these letters would say, we're trying to send you another type of refund attached to FEMA payments. Send us your bank information. Also looks like a scam. But what these IRS letters typically are, they relate back to Washington State Governor Ferguson submitting a request for FEMA reimbursement for all of the storm damage last December. Several people lost a lot and filed FEMA claims to get help. That was denied by the administration. The Attorney General here in our state filed suits, went through all machinations. The funds were finally released, and the governor was able to get that money coming to Washingtonians through FEMA, which is great. But not everybody is signed up for direct deposit with the IRS. And so if you're not, somehow the IRS wants direct deposit and they're not able to do so because for what information they don't have. So the letter sounds like a scam, but if you get one of these letters, log on to your account at irs.gov. If you don't have an account, create an account. You might have to set up an ID Me account to go with it to verify your information and your identity. That takes several steps, but go on to irs.gov for your account. And if this is a legitimate letter that's come in snail mail to you, there's also going to be an exact copy of it, a digital copy of it on file on your IRS account. So if that's there, you know it's real. If you don't do anything to respond to this letter, they're going to send you a paper check in 6 weeks. That's what the letter tells you. While you're on irs.gov, on your account. You can also sign up for direct deposit if you'd like. If you want a paper check, don't do anything, wait 6 weeks, and you'll get that check. One of these, the filings here basically said, I was due a refund, but it was only about $100, so I'm not going to bother doing anything. I'll see if I get a check in 6 weeks. But the point is, these letters appear to be legitimate, but if you're not comfortable just sending away your bank information, go online and either sign up for direct deposit, verify that the letter has a digital copy, very easy to find on your account online. And then once you realize it's verified and legitimate, you can decide to just wait and get a paper check. So that's kind of the scoop. It's really, if you're not sure, go online and check, because that's the best double check you can do. If you don't find a digital copy, don't do anything.
Okay. All right. That's good to know, because a lot of people have been concerned about that. And it also segues into a good point that a few people have made in the chat. I want to call out Christian saying that they suggest that you check your credit card statements frequently. I do so weekly to monitor charges. You can spot a fraudulent charge early and before multiple charges are made, and can shut down a card or initiate an investigation. And then also, DM mentions you can set up notifications. Eric says, I set up alerts for my bank account to notify me of any charges or checks that are over a certain amount. And I just wanted to point out that is the top tip from one of our fraud experts here in Washington, Doug Shadell, who you may know. He's been on Fraud Watch Friday and also has written for the AARP magazine and for the Bulletin, and has written several books. That's his number one tip, is to monitor your accounts. He checks his accounts every day, which is probably a little much, but if you have the time, and for the majority of transactions, if it's with a bank or a credit card, checking frequently is a good way to stop a fraud, because you can file a dispute and you can stop the money. That's part of the problem with crypto, is the money's already gone and there's no way to trace it. But in the case of your credit card, if somebody's hacked into it, or your bank account, if you're on top of things, a lot of times you can stop scams before they're completed. So that's a great tip, and also something that you can do. It's actionable. So just wanted to point that out, and I'm glad that there are several people who are already doing it. And thank you to Richard for pointing out an article in the Spokesman Review about a former police officer being scammed. Using AI in kind of the grandparent scam, but in this case, it's his adult daughter. But that's something we've talked about a lot in our recent AI sessions, about how technology can make scams more convincing, and it looks like this might be an example of that. So we will try to find that article, and if we get Detective Schwerin on from Spokane, maybe we can ask him if he knows anything about that. And then also, Donita is studying cybersecurity in college. So thank you for joining us. I don't know if you're older or younger, but if you are younger, we appreciate your interest in fraud that affects us in the older demographic. And we need people like you out there to protect us. So good luck with your studies. And hopefully this has been a good session for you. Let's see, what else do we have in the chat? Okay, do you see anything else we need?
Well, I think I'd just like to also point out, as we're kind of coming to a close here with our time, that, really not just monitoring your bank account, contact your bank and credit card companies and set up those alerts that Bruce mentioned, so that you get a text every time there's a charge or for your bank, a deposit or withdrawal over a certain dollar amount. You can set it to zero. I get a text from my credit card company every single day saying, here's the balance. And if there's a charge, immediately after the charge, my phone dings and I've got a text saying, this charge has been charged to your card. So if it's not me standing in the store paying for my groceries, I know that there's trouble. So, those alerts can really be a first line of defense for you to act quickly, because that's one thing that law enforcement and detectives that work with fraud really emphasize. Act fast. You have to act as quickly as possible. Don't wait a few days to think about it, because then it's too late to follow up, to take any action, and potentially to get the bad guys or get your money back. So how we doing on time, Bruce?
Oh, well, we are at our time, but we'll go over a couple minutes. I just wanted to comment on Donita's
Yeah,
post about a woman that she had heard about who sent gold
mm,
to pay a ransom in a
oh,
foreign country. I guess in that case, she knew she was dealing with criminals, so maybe gold made sense. But, anytime you're asked to buy gold and wrap it up and send it in a box, I mean, that's a scam.
mhm,
Crypto, that's a scam. Gift cards, that's a scam. But that's heartbreaking to hear. And I'm
yeah,
sure along with the money, the fear and emotional distress in a case like that is so heartbreaking.
absolutely.
Um, and I also wanted to mention we had just heard about that certain fraud losses may be tax deductible where they hadn't been before, and
Mm,
that's great news. Unfortunately, it doesn't help people who have lost their life savings to a scammer, but there have been cases where people have lost their life savings or retirement funds and then owe taxes on the amount that they lost, which is a double heartbreak.
mhm,
So we are not going to give tax advice or legal advice, but I am going to look into that
yeah,
because
good.
apparently this could really be helpful to some people.
Mhm,
But I'd like you to ask you to register for next month's Fraud Watch Friday. And the link is there and the link is live. I know last month it wasn't, but this time I checked. You should be able to sign up there if you want to just go ahead and sign up now. That'll be June 19th at 10:30 a.m. And you will get that link. And we need to decide our topic. Okay, we've got a couple of good choices.
yeah. Well,
Um,
and I have a call into Detective Sharing to see if he
okay.
will join us next month, and to talk about fraud, his experience with fraud, specifically cryptocurrency, how he approaches it, how does he go after the bad guys, and then what can we do to where, from a law enforcement perspective, what's the most important steps. So I think that would be really helpful for to have him join us, if he's able. If not next month, then and you'll certainly find out with the notes that come out about Fraud Watch Friday. We'll certainly have him scheduled very soon, because he's a terrific speaker, just a
He
terrific
is.
speaker. Yeah,
He is. I was going to say that he's a very good speaker.
he is.
He's kind of a colorful character.
He is.
He'll give you kind of behind the scenes, maybe sometimes, maybe more than you wanted to know about how these
Yeah.
investigations work. But he's very well informed, as you mentioned. He's had advanced training in cryptocurrency investigations and frauds. So I would be looking forward to being able to ask him questions and find out what's going on in Spokane and also around our state. Here's the Fraud Watch toll-free helpline again.
Ken,
Well,
start having dreams about it.
it's worth having that number
That's right.
handy because sometimes if you're in the heat of the moment, if somebody is asking you to send gold to rescue your kidnapped relative, you really need to have a plan in advance. because your sort of critical thinking goes out the window and panic sets in.
Mhm.
And the last thing you want to do when you're confronted with these scams in real time is panic. You want to be able to remember what you've learned
Yeah.
here and say, wait a minute, is this a fraud that I heard about on Fraud Watch Friday
There you go.
or somewhere else? Just being able to recognize, oh, this is scary, but wait a minute, this is a known fraud tactic. So that's why we put that up. And if you're interested in volunteering with AARP, whether in the Fraud Watch Network or in any other aspect, you can send us an email there. And I guess with that, we'll call it good for another Fraud Watch Friday. I learned something I didn't know, so thank you, Kay. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Yeah. We'll look for you next month. Thanks so much for joining us today. Take care and watch out for those bad guys.